Hello, everyone. It's Zara Altair, and this is the Midweek Zap. Thank you all for joining us today. And my guest today is an astounding human being, Mike Fountain. I am just so delighted to have him here. A couple of months ago, I saw him on another HOA, and I was just so impressed. And I asked him to come and be here with us. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, first of all, I've got to say thanks. I've never been called astounding before. Quite a few words beginning with A, but never astounding. They're usually shorter and end in an E with a couple of letters in between. And anyway, yeah, right, okay. I'm Mike Fountain. I'm a coach, I suppose is the best way to describe what I do. I've been in business now for, God, 14, maybe 15 years. My background is mechanical engineering. So I've come from this world where everything was very factual and it's driven by numbers and processes, and it was very science, physics-driven world that I did my first bit of early life into up until the age of 30. Before I hit 30, sort of 24, 25 years of age, I got involved in psychology and hypnosis and stress management, and I became fascinated with how the mind works, and specifically how people respond in different scenarios. So I'm amazed by siblings. When you have three siblings in a household and they all grew up in exactly the same family, same house, were exposed to the same things, yet their perception of what they saw, what they experienced differs. And that fascinates me. It fascinates me how we have this very, very accurate scientific world where everything is driven by fact. And then we have this other world where everything is a bit more fuzzy. And I love it where these two things meet. And I love finding people who are kind of having problems and how to bring a wealth of different perspectives to a solution, and to help people see something in a different way, maybe a more open-minded process, or maybe a more logical, scientific to the point kind of solution. So that's what I do.
Well, I think it's just a really wonderful take because it's it's a very broad spectrum of the and view of the human condition. And when we originally spoke, we talked about people, especially business owners, finding their why and knowing what their why is. And you want to describe that a little bit more for the audience?
This is where I'm going to make it up again as I go along. I think this story changes every time I talk about it. Okay. Okay. I'll explain how I first came into business coaching. My first experiences running a business were complete failure. I was a complete failure running my very first business. I sucked. Luckily, I was very good at actually helping people deal with stress and their mental mind issues. And I was working with a lot of business owners who were coming to me because they were stressed out. And I would listen to them, and I would just apply the logic from my engineering background, saying, well, why don't you do this and do these systems? And I remember when Hillary, a lawyer, a friend of mine, who came to see me, and she came back after a couple of months. She goes, Mike, it was amazing. We did what you said. I did what you said, and I made an extra £27,000 in like 3 months, and I bought a speedboat. And I'm like, what? How? She goes, I just did what you said. I applied what you said, suggestions you made. I thought, okay. And then she told some other people, and they came to see me, and they were also stressed out, and I gave them the same kind of solutions, and they also made money. And at this time, my business was dire, and I got approached by a business, a charity, a government-funded organization over here in the UK, who help businesses that are struggling. And they approached me and they said, will you come on board as a mentor? And I was like, no, I have no idea. My business is rubbish. I don't make enough money. And I've only been in the business for about 2 years at that stage. And they said, no, come on board. Oh, okay. And I went on board, and the very first company I mentored was an interior designers. And in the first 6 months of working with them, I improved their revenue by 80%. And over an 18-month period, we actually increased revenue by 350%, or in financial terms, took them from doing around £250,000 to over £1 million revenue per year. And it wasn't because I was gifted with all these wealth of strategies and know-hows. I didn't know anything. That's probably my best thing. I went to the girls and I just listened to their story, and I got the passion, I got the reason of why they were in business. And it was simply then a case of understanding who they were as people, understanding their purpose, the passion behind the business, and applying a model to the business so the business acted as a vehicle to deliver their passion for their life financially. And it was all about their why. It was just understanding who they were as as people, sorry. I think, well, I don't think, I know from my own experiences that many people go into business chasing the dollar or the pound in the belief that once they get to a certain level, they'll be happy. Once I have 100,000 or six-figure turnover, I'll be happy. Once I hit this level of sales, I'll be happy. Or once I hit this target, I'll be happy and I'll have made it. And it always fascinates me that there's all these people and they're so willing to throw away their happiness or to deny their happiness until they hit a certain level. And they just get entrenched in all the reasons why things don't work for them. And this is what happened to these two girls in the interior design business. They were so entrenched in just trying to make it that they forgot about their passion. And I just came back and I shone a big light on their passion. And I helped them connect with that. So they were doing what they were doing for the fun of doing it. And they became happier. They became more living their dream, which in turn, along with a couple of very clever and shrewd ideas we put together, were able to focus on the right side of their business and to grow it to a massive, massive level. But it always comes down to why. My question always is why do we throw away our happiness in the belief that we'll be happy at a certain date later? Why not just be happy now in the moment? Connect with the thing that makes us happy, and then we build the business around our happiness, around what we believe makes us, well, we're naturally gifted, and build the business, the vehicle of the business around us, so that we're always happy doing what we're doing, and luckily we can monetize it and make money out of it, but we're happy in the process.
Oh, I love that. I love that concept. Being happy is really balancing, if that makes any sense to you. But I'm sure for our audience, they're still kind of lost. So give us an example of a model that you use to help people incorporate their happiness into their business models so that those financial rewards are there, dollars or pounds or whatever they might be.
The simplest way I can explain that is just by sitting down and listening to people, finding out what they're passionate about, finding out what makes them happy. If there's always that phrase, if money was no object, what would you do? I must admit, when I first heard it, I thought, well, that's fine for you to say that because you've got money. But plenty of us don't have any money. So how could you ask me if I was doing what I was doing and money wasn't the object? What would I do? And it took a long time for me to understand that. But it's about sitting down and answering some questions. A lot of the time that we don't know what we really want, but counterintuitively always know what we don't want. So I would suggest people sit down and make a massive list of what you don't want, and the flip side of that is actually what you do want. And don't be afraid to connect with the intrinsic joy. I do quite a few presentations. I talk about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, and I always see extrinsic motivation as that's driven by our neighbor or our friend or our colleague or whoever having the latest BMW or the latest Mercedes or the biggest 52-inch curved screen TV or whatever they've just bought, the diamond ring, iPhone 6, whatever it may be. And people are motivated by the extrinsic, by media marketing to go and chase these extrinsic goals and the belief that that will make them happy. And my belief is completely counterintuitive to that. I believe that happiness comes from within. We can be happy in any scenario. I've traveled many countries throughout Africa, in Europe, and many, I think, like 26 countries to date. And I've seen people with nothing who are extremely happy. And I mean, they're genuinely happy people. And they have nothing, what we would class as having nothing. And yet equally, I've met multi-millionaires who are really depressed, really sad. So I don't believe that wealth is necessarily a cause of happiness. Neither is a lack of wealth really a cause or effect of happiness. Happiness is just something that we can be. But when you understand what it is you don't want and what you do want, then it's about, well, what is that thing that I want? You know, do I want to be like, you know, do I want to be a dog groomer? Do I want to be a hairdresser? Do I want to be a doctor or a scientist or a coach or a driver or a mother or a father or a parent? What do I most want to be? What could I most add value to? Do I want to go out and help a community? And it's finding that thing that you're most passionate about. And then you, okay, well, what kind of money would I like? And if you have a figure of what you'd like to make per year, well, then it's quite easy. If you divide that by 12, it gives you monthly income. If you know roughly what you could earn per client, you can work out how many clients you'd need to actually work with. You could then work backwards even further. So, well, you know, let's say I convert 5% of my people I market to. You could then work out how many people you'd have to market to. From there, you could work out how much money you'd have to spend on marketing to get to that number of people. You begin to think about what kind of marketing message you'd have to give them, what kind of conversion strategies you have to do to get your prospects to become clients, how much money you'd have to get them to spend, how many times you'd have to spend, number of referrals they'd have to generate for you, the length of time you should keep them as a client, and what you should do to retain them as clients. So you can think about all of that in the dreaming stage of your business just by sitting down and thinking, okay, what is it I most want to do? How do I monetize that? And there's this the Buddhism saying was, you know, where you're not, don't be distracted by the things that attract you, not driven by your wants. Your wants, you know, are extrinsic. Your wants shouldn't drive you. It's not about the extrinsic, it's about the internals. It's about doing what you feel happy doing, and then building that business in the background behind it. For me, you know, my whole thing is when I was growing up, my parents were always at home. I've always lived always experienced a younger life where my parents were self-employed. You know, they had pubs, restaurants, farms, all these different businesses. So I always experienced that. They were always there to pick me up from school. So when I grew up myself, when I properly grew up when I was like 30, like I took a long time to grow up. But when I did grow up, I wanted to have that experience with my kids, to be there for them. So the business was designed around flexibility. It was designed so I can work, I can do private coaching, I can go and speak in front of groups, corporate groups, etc. And I can take my kids to school in the morning. I'm there for them in the evening time. Wednesdays is the day I do cooking. So Wednesday is the night off for Catherine, so she doesn't cook, I cook. But the business was always being designed around family and around our lifestyle. The business isn't the be-all and end-all. It's just a tiny part of who I am. So it really was. It's about designing the business to suit me. But anyone can do that.
Okay, I really like that, and I personally agree with that. I actually had never thought about it before, but I too grew up where my parents were always around, and you know, I went with my father when he did things, visiting people and such, and my mom was home, and that is a very stable environment, and I do love being home, and I love working from home. I think another question from our audience would be, so how do we get unstuck? What if we're stuck? What if we've made those lists, and we've devised, you know, how many clients it would take and how many per month and how much money, you know, and we have that,
Yeah.
but it's still not happening. What are the ways? Because I think that's something that people really want to know.
Yeah.
How do we get unstuck, Mike?
Yeah. Okay. My personal beliefs here is it's a mind game. Um, I've heard Tony Robbins and many others say this, that we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And when people set goals, the goals are always pleasure based. Um, when we're starting a business, a lot of time when we're starting a business, it requires a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. It's a lot of phone calls, a lot of time where we get rejection, where people just say no, they're not interested. It's partly because maybe we haven't got the experience behind us, or we haven't got a good enough pitch, or maybe they just don't need us right now. And I know myself in my early days, I would have took rejection as rejection of me, rather than them just, they said no. That doesn't mean they meant no. They just said no at that particular time. I didn't really understand people that well at that particular moment. So, many people do set the business up and then they get stuck. And I believe they get stuck because they've had the rejection, or they're driven by their fear. Their fear is preventing them from taking the action. And my answer to that is, it's easy to say this, and it's easy to do, yet people still don't do it. And that is just do it anyway. Just pick an hour in one day where you're going to make the phone calls, and don't phone the company that's going to give you that you're most likely to get a yes from, or the company you got a yes, but the money's not going to be very good. Phone the company that will give you the most money, or phone the client, or find the clients that will potentially give you the most money and the best referrals, and just phone them. And don't approach them. Don't just approach them and sell. Find out how you can help them. I was chatting this week to a client who wanted to get PR pieces in the papers. I was chatting away and said, look, here's the easiest way. She lives in Washington. I said, look, go and speak to editors and journalists. Find out who the journalists are. Find out who the editors are and the papers you'd like to get published. Get a list of them, and each week phone up 2 or 3 of them and offer to take them out for dinner. Buy them a coffee and ask them, what have I got to do to get my PR pieces in your paper? And it's just about taking action. The more action you take, the more bold you are, the better results you are. I grew up where we have this very thing about smart goals, and even now as an athletics coach, I still have to set smart goals with athletes. And personally, I hate it. I disagree with SMART goals all the time, because again, SMART goals is about setting that you'll achieve your happiness at the end of the realization of the goal. And I sit down and say, no, don't do that. Go for experiential goals, experiential experiences. What can you do right now that would be an amazing experience for yourself and for the person you're speaking to? How could you connect with them? How could you really hear them, understand them? Who are they as people? What do they want? They are just like you and I. They probably have family. They have financial constraints. They want certain things. People want happiness. Take away everything else, and the thing we're all looking for is happiness and self-actualization, to understand who we are as people. So what can you do when you're on the phone to that person? Instead of trying to ram your product down the phone to them, find out about them, connect with them, listen to them, engage with them. And when you open those doors, when you approach somebody just in that human interaction, it becomes not about the product, but about the relationship. It's about the experience. And if you're open to the experience, you will learn more about yourself and about how you can communicate more effectively. It's simple just to go out and set experiential goals. So, my clients now, they come back and they go, set these goals. And I go, no, you have not set any goals. We're going to go do some experiences. And the conversations I have is, what experiences did you have this week? Oh, well, I phoned up 10 clients, and what happened? Well, this is what I experienced. 5 of them said yes. How did that make you feel? It made me feel great. Okay, the 5 that said no, what did you learn? Okay, well, I learned that, 4 of them or 2 of them said no, they're not ready, but the other 3 are maybe, and I'm going to meet them in 2 months' time. Well, great. So you're building a list of people to follow up with.
I think that
It's easy.
individual basis, and we've had a number of guests on the Midweek Zap who have echoed that it is the one-on-one relationships that you build, and when you ask questions to each individual and you talk with them and you find out what their needs are before you ever start pushing whatever it is that you're selling, that you have a lot of information, and that if your goal is to help them, then you have the information that you need
Yeah.
to show them how you can help them. Um, and that is just so very powerful. And I think for a lot of people who are listening today and will be listening in the future, there's a whole new way on a Google Plus of doing that same engagement and bypassing the telephone and actually talking to people one-on-one
Yeah.
through the vehicles that we have, like personal messages and quick video chats, which can accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
And going out and making those connections, finding the people that are appropriate, and then reaching out. That's the key. The
Yeah.
reaching out and making that connection and being ready for a no is
Yeah.
very apropos.
Can I share a story?
Yeah, of course you can tell a story.
Okay. Around about how long would it be now? It must have been about 7 or 8 years ago, and there was an advert that I saw online for one of Tony Robbins' books. It's Letter to a Friend, Letter to a Friend. It's a tiny, tiny, thin book, and it was a free book you could request from Robbins Research. So, me being me, said yes, I'll take it, and it was shipped duly. I think it arrived in 3 weeks. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from this guy called Dean, or Dino, and he goes, "Hi, Mike, did you get the book?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He goes, "What do you think about it?" I said, "I loved it. Great story." He was talking about, what do you love about Tony Robbins? And I love Tony Robbins. He's great. And he goes, "Oh, great. He's going to be in London at the Excel Theatre. He's going to be doing this talk." And I goes, "Oh, it'd be great to be there." And he found out all about me. He found out that I had 2 kids. We had another kid on the way. That I love Tony Robbins. That this is what I was passionate about. And he goes, "Oh, Mike, it'd be fantastic if you got to the event. But listen," he goes, "I'm not going to be able to talk to you anymore. Can I call you back in a week's time?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can, Dean. You're a fantastic guy." So hung up. A week later, he's on the phone. "Mike, how are you?" "Brilliant. I'm brilliant." "Did you get this other letter I sent you from Tony Robbins?" "Yeah, I did. It was brilliant. Thank you so much." 3 times, 3, 4 times he made those phone calls, and he found out about me. And the 4th phone call, he phones up, and he goes, "Mike," and he goes, "You really want to go see Tony Robbins. He's in London. The tickets are £1,000 to get the seats where you want to go." He goes, "If you could get those tickets right now, what would you pay for them?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'll give you £150. And he goes, "Right, you can have the ticket for £150. And I just sat back and I laughed, because he had phoned me 4 times. He understood exactly what my needs were, exactly what my wants were. He knew exactly what I was willing to spend, and he gave me exactly what I wanted. And I could not say no to him. I couldn't say no, because he hadn't sold me. I'd sold me. He'd asked good questions.
Oh,
And
that's so fantastic, because we have from Deborah Rock in our audience. So experiences can be set as goals too. It is very intimidating getting yourself out there in front of people. How does one get over or control that fear when contacting new people?
okay. It's just people. Okay. It doesn't matter whether you're speaking in front of 10 people or 5 people or 100 people. They're just people. They have the same fears. They have the same limiting beliefs. They have the same phobias, same thought processes that we all have. What's the worst they could say is no. That's it. It's the worst they could say is no. No doesn't mean no. A friend of mine, Andrew Waltz, wrote a book called Go for No, heard Richard Fanton, that again American-based, goforno.com. A fantastic concept of a book. But the whole thing is don't go for the yeses, just go for the no's. If you know it, you have to get 7 no's to get 1 yes. Get your 7 no's to find your yes. No doesn't mean no. Again, something I learned from Dean when I was chatting with him is I went to see Tony Robbins, but I only went on one condition. I was amazed at how he could sell me to come on that program. So I said, how did you learn? And he goes, well, Tony Robbins gives every one of his employees this CD pack on how to negotiate, how to sell. And I said, okay, look, I'll go if you send me that CD pack. And he goes, I can't do that. I said, well, I can't go then. And he goes, oh, okay. He goes, I'll do it. And I thought, you're just messing around. But he did. He sent me the CDs over. And I listened to those CDs for months on end. And I learned to negotiate. So in answer to the earlier question, I would go and see people, okay? And I'd get incredibly pumped up going to see them. I'd listen to this Tony Robbins CD. And I'd get in there and I'd do my presentation and I'd listen and I'd take my notes. And then I would look at a solution I could give these people. And I would always lead with this. Would you rather have this or this? I would never ask, do you want to buy it? I say, do you want me to be, or if it's on the phone to make a meeting, we'll do it that way, it's easier. Look, I'm in your area next week. Can I meet you on Tuesday or Thursday? And they would say, well, I can't meet you Tuesday or Thursday because I'm busy. Okay, what day are you free? So they'd tell me what day they're free. Okay, would morning or afternoon suit? Well, okay, morning. Okay, what time exactly in the morning? Oh, 10 o'clock. Well, great. I'll meet you then on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So by not letting them have a yes or no answer, I can manage to get the meeting. When I'm at the meeting, then I say, well, would you rather have product A or product B? Well, I like product B, but I'd like to get product A in there as well. Well, okay, you could have that, but that'll cost this much. Would you rather pay this much or this much? And I'm always negotiating, finding out what the upper and lower limits are. And then when I'm satisfied that they're going to buy, I'll then ask them to buy. So, okay, well, great, let's sign the paperwork here. If they then turn around and say no, I then say, okay, well, I know you really want the product or the service, so what would I have to do in order for you to say yes? And then we'll find out what objections they really have. Well, I said, okay, it's the time. I'll say, well, if we can handle the time issue, or we can handle the money issue, or we can handle whatever issue they may have, would you then proceed? And I'll go through this process all the time until I get a yes or a no, a hard no, a solid no, or a solid yes. If it's a yes, I sign them up. And if it's a no, I'll go, oh, it's great. When can I follow up with you for the next chat? And I never ever leave a no as a hard no. A no is just a door that isn't quite fully open yet.
And then we have a very important question from Vivekananda Vandurao. I hope I said that correctly.
Yeah, I know Vivek. Yeah.
I love Vivek. So, how do I identify my own self-limiting belief? Wow, okay, in 25 words or less?
I have no idea. I have, honestly, that's a question. Can I answer that? How do you know your own self-limiting belief? That's a really tough question to actually answer, and I don't actually know how we could answer that without.
I think maybe it's the process.
Yeah.
And I think, Vivek, it's probably the process that Mike described at the beginning, which is to list what you don't want and then to create your list of wants from the don't wants. And I think that would help you.
Yeah, and even to take that deeper, Vivek, there, it's looking at, if you look at what you do on a weekly basis, maybe look at that weekly stroke monthly basis, and it's looking at the results you're getting, and the results that you're achieving is obviously where your strengths lie at, be it which could be obviously the design, the implementation, the thinking of it. If you're not getting that out then to actual customers, or you're not generating customers, then it's looking at, is there a self-limiting belief where there is the action taking, where it's making those phone calls or maybe even creating the copy. Are you comfortable in the element of the design and the thought process of creating something, but not comfortable in the process of selling? So maybe it's just a self-limiting belief there. Many times, and I know myself, when I was younger, that you go to make the phone calls and you go, oh, I'll go and phone this person here, but then in the back of your mind, you've given yourself 10 reasons why you can't phone them, because they're busy, they're from a better company than you are, they've got a better car, they're too far away. Why do they only speak to me? I'm only a little person, and they're a big corporation. So you begin making excuses in your mind of why you're not going to go and do something. Whereas, I said earlier, just have an hour where you say, you know what? What's the worst thing they can do to you? They can't put you in jail unless you're harassing them. But they can't do anything to you, hurt you. And the worst thing you can get is a really hard no. The best thing you can get is an opportunity to have a relationship, to have an experience, to learn, and to pass that on to them, to give them an experience of who you are, a real flavor of your personality.
Oh, I really like that. It's the opportunity, finding that and identifying the opportunity. So, and that's a really positive, because if you're spending time on identifying your self-limiting beliefs and wondering what they are, the to switch the focus to what can I do right now or today, to set aside that hour to contact people, is more productive. And I have something from Heidi. She says that overcome fear is a skill we can learn, or better handling fear in ways that it doesn't stop you in doing what you feel to do. We coaches work on that with whoever has the courage to step out of old conditionings and to embrace emotions in a good way. Would you agree with that?
I take another viewpoint on this.
Okay.
And that is, fear is just an emotion. Fear is nothing real. Fear doesn't exist. Fear only exists because you apply thinking in the moment to any situation. I'll give you an example. Okay, my kids would come into my office quite regularly, and they'd come in with, worms and spiders and things from the outside, and especially my youngest one, say, "Daddy, Daddy, look what I found!" And it's a blinking great big spider. And I go, "Heidi, what are you doing? Get out!" And I'd shout at her, but I began to realize that Heidi, by me shouting at Heidi wasn't the cause of my anger or my frustration in the moment. It was my thinking in the moment that caused me to feel something. It wasn't Heidi coming, because whenever I see Heidi, she doesn't cause me any anger. She comes in to see me all the time. And sometimes the kids come in and they'll see something on the whiteboard, and they'll make an insight that I hadn't seen. They'll see something there that I have not seen, because they don't have any experience there. They have fresh thinking, a fresh perspective. So I always see emotions. We get caught up in our emotions by giving them meaning. And it's that thinking in the moment. It's like that fear of making that phone call. We only experience fear because we're thinking about the outcome before it's actually happened. It's like a phobia. We see, I coach at a running club, and we have a couple of girls there who are petrified of dogs. So whenever we go running through trails and stuff like that, if there's dogs there, they are petrified. But even if you mention dogs to them, they still have a reaction. And that's their thinking. So if you can take away the thinking about the outcome and just act in the moment, connected with self, fear, excitement, nerves, none of them exist, because you're grounded in the moment. You're connected in the moment. If you're connected in the moment and you're giving an experience, you're focusing on them, fear, those emotions can't exist, because you're connected with that person. So when I'm speaking to you here, it doesn't matter who's speaking or who's listening or anything else. I'm looking at the camera and I'm listening to you, and I'm completely engaged with the camera and this process, and nothing else is going on. So I'm completely in the moment, focused on how I can help, how I can be of benefit, what can I do that could help someone change their life. or create an environment where they're going to be more successful, or go on to help somebody else be successful. That's what I'm focused on. All these other emotions, they don't matter. I used to get onto these calls and I would be nervous. I'd be back and forth to the toilet like a 70-year-old man, with a weak bladder. And now my focus is purely on the experience. So fear, all these other emotions, etc., they only experience and we only give them power because of our thinking about them. As soon as you take away that thought, those emotions have no power over you.
Oh, that's such a wonderful focus to focus on the experience, because our experiences, if we're focused on them and not letting outside emotions, as it were, come in, is experiential. Well, that was not a good definition, but it's experiential. So we're focused on the experience, and that is all that counts at that moment, which means when you're talking to a potential client, they feel that focus and they really connect with your ability to be focused on them right now.
Yep.
And that focus is connecting with them, not selling them the product.
Yeah, you are 100% there to serve them, to give them the experience, and it's the transference of its experience. Tony Robbins talks about it's the transference of emotion, but it's the transference of the experience. The experience is the emotion. If you can take someone on the journey, the best speakers from stage, they don't sell us product, they sell us a story. If we can give our potential clients, whether they're on the phone, in real life, in a coffee shop, wherever they exist, if we can connect with them and give them that experience, transfer that emotion to them, they will feel valued, they will feel listened to, you will connect them at a level that they're not used to. And you open up the door for possibilities.
We're kind of running out of time, but I'm okay with going a little bit over because I wanted to talk about one more thing that you mentioned in our original chat.
Okay.
And that was the anti-goal. What is that, Mike? What's an anti-goal?
The anti-goal really is the experiential. It is that experiential experience. It's not going for goals. Okay. Okay, right. Another story. When I was 30 years of age, I left the army. I was a mechanical engineer in the British Army, and I left the army. And we had our first daughter, Amy, who's now 13, well, nearly 14 actually. And I was very, very fit. I was very, very active. Played a lot of sport, and all of a sudden, I didn't have that, and I put on a couple of pounds. Those pounds increased year by year, and they became stones, and then multiple stones, and I became very, very overweight. And every year, I would turn around to myself and I say, you know what? This year, my goal this year, New Year's Eve, is I'm going to set some goals, and I'm going to lose weight. I had this shirt that I first wore when I first met Catherine, and every year I'd make a promise to myself and to Catherine that I would fit into the shirt. Each year would come and go, and I'd just get bigger and fatter, and nothing would change. And I was setting goals to do that. And I go, eating healthy, all this kind of, I'm not going to swear, but all this kind of rubbish anyway. And a number of years went, but it kept happening every year. 5 years ago, my younger sister, she passed away from breast cancer after a 5-year battle. And Catherine was in the town one day, and she saw a flyer for this thing called Race for Life. And it's a charity where you run 5Ks and you're raising money for Action Cancer UK. So she goes, it'd be really great to run this and to raise some money, in memory of your sister. Oh, that's really cool. And it's something that, me and Amy can do, because, we don't, we do things, we do a lot of things together as a family, not exercise-wise. And so they started running. And I saw them going out running and exercising. I thought, you know what? I've got a wealth of experience of exercising, and having worked and trained in that environment for so long, I thought, well, I can go and give Catherine and Amy some help here, some experience. And I went out and I helped them. And in 3 months, I'd lost 3.5 stone by helping them. And I hadn't set a single goal. But what I did do is I became completely involved in the experience of helping them. Or it wasn't about me, it was about them. It was nothing. There was nothing extrinsic about it. It was purely intrinsic, helping them to achieve their goal of running this 5K, of running the full 5K distance, which they both did very, very well, actually. But the whole thing with goal setting is typically goal setting means that I'll be happy when I achieve X, Y, or Z, or when I reduce my weight, or when I stop smoking, or when I get in a good relationship, or when I get rid of this rubbish car, or when I get a better car, or whatever it would be. And we're always delaying our gratitude or our appreciation or our joy, waiting for something to change. And this is where the whole experiential experience idea came up, that, you know, we as people, we have no right to delay feeling happy. You were born happy. From the age of 0 to 5, we have mental plasticity where our minds are open to learning. We don't need to learn, but we just learn. We take in everything that we see and hear. We take in the beliefs and the values of the people around us. Kids nowadays, unfortunately, sit down watching TV all their bloody lives. And the TV, the media, that influences them. So by the time they're hitting 6, 7 years of age, they already have a framework of how the world is, of what makes them happy. And it's always these extrinsic things. You were born happy. I've had kids. I've had 3 kids. You've had kids, yes, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. You've seen kids. I'm sure people watching this, they've had kids or they've seen kids. Right? When kids are born, they have no need for anything external to make them happy, save from being fed, sometimes being entertained, being cuddled, making sure that they're clean. They're looking for love. That's our state. That's what we need. We don't need anything external. So this whole thing where we set, these goals in order to justify how we feel, or we'll feel happy when I lose the weight, when I fit into the dress, etc. They're just toxic. They're toxic goals, because if we don't achieve them to the level we want, what happens? We go back to this way of thinking that we're a failure, that we're not good enough, or we're not deserving enough, or I can't do it, and we give in. And it's not making those phone calls, or not doing that business deal, or holding yourself back. And it just sucks. It's such a waste of life. But then if you can go into the experiential,
we have to come to a close because we're running out of time. But I just want to thank you so much for being here. I think this is something that we need to constantly think about, is our own present experience right now, what we're doing, and fully engaging and focusing on the present. That is the way that we also listen to people and bring people in and help them solve problems from our side, from a business perspective, because that's the goal, in our business, is to find clients that resonate with us. And if we provide them with that true experience, they are, yes, with that true experience, either going to say yes or no.
Yeah.
But if they say yes, it is the focus and the present moment experience that we have given them that has brought them toward that yes. And I think that's the really essential message of our conversation today, is being focused on the present experience, and that happiness stays with us by being focused in the present. Am I correct, Mike?
Yeah. You can be happy in any environment. I've had some rubbish jobs in my life. I worked in a garden centre, and I just used to shovel basically manure from one corner of the garden
Right.
centre to the other. You could look at that job and go, that was horrendous. It was one of the best jobs I ever had. I had the best fun doing that one job. I found happiness in it.
Yes. So anyway, we need to close for today. I want to thank you very much. This has been very, very valuable information. And I know that if anyone in our audience has questions that you can ask Mike, leave them in the comment
Yeah.
stream, and he'll be back later to answer those questions. And I want to thank you all for being with us today and contributing to our conversation. It's been very great, and we will see you next week. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very important information. All
It was
right,
cool.
everyone. Thank you. Let's say goodbye, Mike.
Okay. See you later, everyone. Thank you very much.